From the headquarters of Telesur in Caracas, Venezuela, this is From the South, and I'm Luis de Jesus. We begin right away with our headlines. National Electoral Council of Venezuela announces an extension of the registration process for the parliamentary elections of December. No entering or leaving to stop the COVID-19. Morocco announces new lockdown measures in its cities to fight the novel coronavirus. Florida becomes the second worst hit state by the COVID-19 pandemic in the U.S. as the country struggles with more than 4 million positive cases of the infection. Stay tuned for more information. Venezuela continues to prepare for the parliamentary elections to be held on December 6th. The National Electoral Council announced on Sunday it had completed an update for the electoral registration. The head of the Electoral Board, Indira Alfonso, said the schedule for these elections has so far been completed without any issues. She announced also a 72 hours extension of the registration process. Alfonso said that at least 107 political organizations will participate in the elections, which will be held under strict biosecurity protocols to prevent COVID-19 infections.
Today
we have decided, and so we want to inform you, to extend for 72 more hours, that is until Wednesday, July 22 at 12 p.m., this special day. So we invite you to maintain that constant motivation, that constant participation, because here is this National Electoral Council ready to meet the demands.
And also in Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro has denounced this Sunday the continued persecution of the United States government over the purchases of drugs and medicines by the Bolivarian country to assist patients infected by the novel coronavirus.
Porque estamos bajo la persecución.
We are under a criminal persecution by the U.S. empire, which is blocking us every time we try to buy medicine to fight COVID-19. I want to denounce this to all international institutions. We need these medicines, and we keep trying to acquire them in the international market. Thankfully, we have always had friends around the globe who give us access to all types of medicine and help us treat COVID-19 patients.
And also, Venezuelan authorities have raised concerns over a marked increase of COVID-19 cases in the capital of Caracas. At the same time, they have reinforced calls for the population to step up all hygienic and social distancing measures.
This is the Petare parish. In the middle of the day, you can already see most shops are closed.
Atención Caracas, atención Miranda, vamos a medidas extraordinarias y especiales para radicalizar la cuarentena a fondo.
These disinfection booths were installed for pedestrian crossings. The citizens of the area agree that the measures taken by the national government have been adequate.
They are totally adequate for the situation. The point is that people need to do their part because the state can't solve everything. We have to be part of the solution, not the problem.
We have to follow the rules because the virus is spreading and things are going to get worse.
On the other side of the capital, in the socialist commune of the Altos of Lidice, a group of young people took the initiative to carry out a disinfection schedule to fight COVID-19.
This has been a systematic work that we started from within the commune so we can counteract the impact of COVID-19 in our territory. Currently, we have 9 positive cases inside the commune. This is also part of coordinated plans we are carrying out along with the Che Guevara Medical Brigade.
More than 1.1 million disinfection activities have been carried across Venezuela as part of the policies designed by the government to mitigate and control the spread of COVID-19.
Let's now change our subject. On Saturday, food delivery couriers across Brazil went on a strike to demand better working conditions. The workers demand the creation of a new minimum rate in deliveries and a fair salary calculated per kilometer. They also ask that couriers stop being dismissed for no clear reason and to be provided the adequate protective equipment to continue working during the pandemic. For their part, companies like Uber-Eats, Rappi, and Logi have yet to address the workers' demands. Social movements have also supported the strike and made calls on locals to stop using the food delivery apps as a sign of protest. And about this subject, our correspondent in Sao Paulo, Brian Meyer, has more.
Labor activists around the world for a while now have been saying that although the strike is weakening as a protest tool in many sectors of the economy, in the logistics area it still offers a lot of opportunities to pressure capitalists to increase and improve labor rights. Yesterday in Brazil there was a nationwide strike held by delivery motorcycle workers for iFoods and Uber Eats. This is the second strike that they've held since the pandemic began in Brazil. And workers' demands include being paid per kilometer for their delivery rides and also protection against the COVID-19 virus and measures to take care of them if they get sick. Yesterday in cities across Brazil, they blocked the entrance to shopping malls, which have been carelessly and recklessly reopened by many state governors. They blocked traffic on some of the major streets in the biggest cities in the country. And they continued demanding for dialogue with the app companies. According to Alessandro de Conceição, who is president of the Autonomous Motorcycle Delivery Workers of Brasilia, all of the app companies continue to refuse any kind of dialogue. As the pandemic worsens in Brazil, as the death toll climbs from around 1,000 a day to over 1,200 a day, workers' rights in these most oppressed sectors of the economy become more and more important, especially in terms of relationship to the risks they're putting themselves at with the COVID-19 virus. So the strategy now of the motorcycle drivers is to keep the pressure up, to keep paralyzing deliveries at this moment of opportunity. As the bourgeois remains cloistered in their homes, while the working class puts itself at great risk of death and illness in this horrible pandemic.
Thank you to Brian Meyer for that report. And the disappearance of 4 young Garifunas in northern Honduras has left their families in a state of shock. For over 7 days, no one has been able to explain why their loved ones were taken away. Our correspondent in Tegucigalpa, Gilda Silvestrucci, has more.
The parents of Milton Joel Martinez spend most time outside their house, waiting for news on their son's whereabouts.
Today marks 7 days. We don't know if he is alive or dead. It is 3 in the morning and we are waiting for a car, waiting for the body of my son. People should not be treated like that.
Heavily armed suspects entered their house, believing they would find Milton there. They searched the house and forced his father to take them to the house where Milton lived.
They told him, "Come on, show us where he lives and don't fool us." That's what I heard them say. And then they left him on the beach as they went looking for Milton with the other guys.
Suami Aparicio lived very close to Milton. The same thing happened at her house. The same suspects wearing uniforms broke down her doors and windows to enter and take her son away.
Those people arrived at 5 in the morning. We were asleep, so they broke the door, they didn't knock, and then they were opening all the windows. They broke all the windows.
People from the Garifuna community agree the kidnappings are related to Snider Centeno, who was president of the local committee for the defense of Garifuna lands.
He was pushing the community to have love for our lands, teaching them about our rights, about not losing our faith, that our lands could return, that these are things that need to happen.
Up until now, there has been no indication of the whereabouts of Milton Martinez, Suami Aparicio, Gerardo Roches, and Snider Centeno. The police have announced the capture of only one suspect. In 2019, 16 members of Garifuna communities were murdered. 6 of whom were women. Until today, all of those murders remain in impunity.
Hilda Silvestrucci, Telesur, Honduras.
And that was the story from Honduras. Guatemala's Pacaya volcano has put the country on alert due to its increased activity. The volcano has shown progressive increase in activity over recent days, in particular the gazing and prolonged incandescence in the McCain crater. There were also lava flows and weak to moderate explosions. Nearby villages will set temporary camps, and authorities have begun asking residents to evacuate as a safety measure. In Mexico, family members of the 43 disappeared normalists of Ayotzinapa demanded justice and punishment from those responsible for the case. 5 years and 10 months later, family members of the disappeared requested President Andrés Manuel López Obrador to continue the investigations in the case to clarify the facts. Senators for the Labor Party demanded the authorities of the General Attorney's Office an investigation against ex-prosecutor Jesus Murillo Caram for the so-called historical truth of the events.
Because of the previous government, we are still here, 5 years and 10 months away, without knowing anything about our children, without being able to do the investigations because they were the ones who disappeared those children, who murdered 3 Ayotzinapa teachers. Of the 43, we don't know where they are.
A virtual campaign call in defense of peace was carried out this Sunday in Colombia in rejection of the murders of social leaders and human rights defenders. The transmission was made through a video conference at 10 hours local time and promoted the hashtag No More Silence and Silence is No Longer an Option on the social network Twitter. Several social activists reviewed some of the crimes that have been perpetrated since the signing of the peace accords. According to various human rights organizations, at least 200 murders of social leaders and former combatants have been recorded in the last 3 years, while the government of Iván Duque denies that the crimes are systematic. And Cuba has commemorated the 67th anniversary of the attack on the Moncada barracks, an event that marked the beginning of the Cuban Revolution. In a message posted to his Twitter account, President Miguel Díaz-Canel paid tribute to the heroes who participated in the attack and hailed the city of Santiago as the cradle of the revolution. On July 26, 1953, a group of revolutionaries led by Fidel Castro attacked the barracks located in Santiago de Cuba. This event paved the way for the July 26th movement and eventual victory against dictator Fulgencio Batista. And now we'll take a short break. Join us again in a minute and follow us in Twitter at Luis Telesur and at Telesur English. We'll be right back. And we are back with more news. Morocco will stop people entering and leaving some of its biggest cities as an effort to contain a surge in COVID-19 cases, the Interior and Health Ministries said on Sunday. The cities to be locked down include the economic powerhouse of Casablanca, as well as Tangier, Marrakesh, Fez, and Meknes. The country eased a nationwide lockdown a month ago, though international flights are still suspended except special flights by national airlines carrying Moroccans or foreign residents. On Sunday, the health ministry said 633 new COVID-19 cases were recorded, one of the biggest daily rises so far, bringing the total number of confirmed infections to 20,278, with 313 deaths and 16,438 recoveries. A new bout of violence in Sudan's war-torn Darfur region has left more than 60 people dead and at least 60 others wounded. About 500 armed men on Saturday attacked the village of Mastery, located 48 kilometers south of Jenina, in the framework of continued clashes between the Masalid and other Arab tribes. A state-run Suna news agency reported dozens of people were killed or wounded, and more than 60 wounded were taken by helicopter to Jenina for treatment. Meanwhile, Sudanese PM Abdallah Hamdok announced on Sunday that the country will deploy security forces to complete a strike in Darfur to protect citizens and farming season after a series of attacks. And also, police in South Africa's Western Cape province used tear gas and stun grenades to disperse hundreds of people who took to the streets to protest against the demolition of their homes. The angry residents blocked roads with burning tires and rocks before heavily armed police officers moved in to repress the protest. The Cape Town, City Council's decision to demolish houses in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic and the country's winter season has been widely condemned. But the council insists that the houses were built illegally and described the protesters as criminals trying to disregard the legal procedures for acquiring land. Iran has reported 260 new deaths from the novel coronavirus as authorities call on citizens to follow health protocols more closely in order to ease the burden and exhausted medical staff. Meanwhile, the country's total number of cases just passed 291,000, with the overall death toll standing at nearly 16,000.
Our biggest concerns are the infection and fatigue of medical staff. We can help them and prevent the spread of the disease by observing basic health guidelines, such as washing hands, wearing a mask, and maintaining social distancing. 12 out of Iran's 31 provinces were classified as red, the highest category in the country's virus risk scaling, and 13 were on alert or close to red.
Thousands of Israelis protested in Jerusalem and other cities demanding Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's resignation over his government's handling of the pandemic. In Jerusalem, protesters held up signs accusing Netanyahu of corruption, a reference to his recent indictment for bribery, fraud, and breach of trust in 3 cases. Protesters also slammed a law passed this week that gives the government special powers to fight the pandemic until the end of 2021. Protesters are also frustrated with the economic crisis triggered by the pandemic, with unemployment rates jumping from 3.4% in February to 27% in April, before falling slightly in May to 23.5%.
I am an Israeli patriot who has fulfilled all his duties. I'm afraid that my grandchildren will not have a state with hope, future and vision. I have a fear that the Israeli Prime Minister will leave us with a scorched earth. We have one country, and we are committed to defending it. I am willing to die for democracy. I am not willing to live in a dictatorship.
We came here to demonstrate against the helplessness of our government in dealing with COVID-19. We came here because there are over 1 million people unemployed in Israel, and it seems to us that the Prime Minister doesn't care about anything except his trials and his survival. We came because we want change. We are tired of a government that doesn't care about its citizens.
Workers in Saudi Arabia have fully disinfected the city of Mecca as the first of the 1,000 pilgrims began to arrive for an unusually limited Hajj celebration. Saudi Arabia has said because of the coronavirus, only very limited numbers of people will be allowed to perform the annual pilgrimage, which traditionally draws more than 2 million Muslims from around the world. For the first time ever this year, the Hajj will not include pilgrims from outside the country. Instead, 70% of pilgrims will be selected from among foreign residents of Saudi Arabia, and 30% will be Saudi citizens. And we'll take now a second short break. For this and more news, visit our webpage at telesur.net/English. We'll be right back.
From here to beyond the South, from here to the Caribbean or further north, where can I see news connecting the whole South? From Washington, from Mexico, from Caracas, from Quito, from Havana. You can always see the news from a new vision, connecting the global south, only on Telesur. Innovation, science, the technological breakthrough and its influence in society.
Viajeros del saber, el futuro está aquí.
Atomen. Monday, only on Telesur.
In the United States, the state of Florida became on Sunday the second worst hit state by the COVID-19 pandemic as the country struggles to see the rise of the novel coronavirus cases. In the last 24 hours, there were 9,300 new COVID-19 cases reported only in Florida, amounting to 423,855 cases of infections. Thus, the state surpasses the rates reported in New York, which is now the third worst hit state after California and Florida. The surge of COVID-19 new cases in the state has continued as the state's Republican governor, Ron DeSantis, continues to downplay the implementation of COVID-19 preventative measures such as the use of face masks. And also in the United States, the Centers for the Disease Control and Prevention reported on Sunday 4,163,892 cases of the coronavirus, an increase of 64,582 cases from its previous daily count. Meanwhile, the government battles the public health threat under different approaches to contain the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic and reactive economic activities. Hurricane Hanna degraded today to a tropical depression as it decreased its intensity after it passed along the Gulf Coast of South Texas in the United States. The first Atlantic hurricane of 2020 slammed into the U.S. state of Texas, bringing heavy rain, storm surges, and potentially life-threatening flash floods. The National Hurricane Center warned that the rains and strong winds continue to be a threat to the population after generating floods in some sectors of the state and affecting the electrical wiring due to the high winds went up to 144 kilometers per hour. According to the National Hurricane Center, it is estimated up to 45 centimeters of rain in parts of South Texas and northeast Mexico. And women across Turkey have gathered in support of an international treaty that seeks to combat violence against women. This comes as fears have grown over the government's possible withdrawal from the agreement. The demonstrations are also part of rising anger in Turkey at the growing number of femicides, including the murder of a university student earlier this month. Deputy Chairman for the ruling party, Numan Kurtulmus, described signing the international treaty as wrong and suggested Turkey could withdraw.
The Istanbul Convention protects us. It's our right in case of divorce. But not only that. For example, if we are in a relationship with a state official, let's say someone in the army who has a weapon, thanks to the Istanbul Convention, that weapon can be taken away if we are threatened.
If this convention is taken away from us, all women will be alone. They will have to fend for themselves in their private circle. The state will have dismissed the responsibility that falls on them. We reject that. While the convention is still misapplied, we already have so many dead.
And the construction of the world's highest altitude power grid project has been completed in China's Tibet Autonomous Region. With a total length of nearly 1,700 kilometers, the project goes from Shitgasi City to Ngari Prefecture, stretching across permafrost, vast plateaus, and swamps at an elevation ranging between 4,000 and 5,300 meters. The region of roughly 380,000 residents has been suffering from power shortages, especially with the tourism and stock breeding industries expanding rapidly in their area. And we've come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories at our website at telesurenglish.net/English. And also you can join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for Telesur English. I am Luis de Jesus. Thank you for watching.